Today, I'm going to tell you a story about the Hunt brothers. You can look up more about the Hunt brothers on Google for further reading. This family was originally from Illinois and rose to prominence in Texas. In the mid-20th century, their family discovered oil fields in Texas. Texas had lots of private oil wells. They found some there and got rich overnight. So the old Hunt, named Harrelson Lafayette, ended up marrying 3 wives, house number 1, house number 2, and house number 3. He had 15 children, all of whom were raised quite well. Among them, 2 of the children from the first wife became the main heirs. The sons from the first wife were the Hunt brothers. One was named Bunker, and the other was named Herbert. The Hunt brothers, Bunker and Herbert, led the U.S. silver bull market that began in 1974. It was way crazier than today. Before they made their move, silver, I've told you before, was always around $1, just about $1 US. After World War II, it stayed about $1. By 1974, the 2 of them started buying slowly, bit by bit, and they ended up buying 55 million ounces. 55 million ounces of silver ended up in the hands of the Hunt brothers. Because they were oil tycoons and had the money, they bought 55 million ounces, which caused the COMEX silver price to rise from around 1.5 to 6 per ounce. In other words, it went from the 1 to 1.5 range before 1970 till 1974. $6 per ounce of silver. Remember these key figures. Then the 2 of them started to get a bit carried away because they had made a huge amount of money. 55 million ounces. The 2 of them were worried that the US government might play dirty and confiscate their silver because back in the 1930s and 1940s, the US government had indeed played dirty before, confiscating everyone's gold. So, at that time, the US government took all the gold from American citizens, and it was illegal for any private individual in the US to own gold. This was the case before and after the war, so the Hunt brothers were worried their silver would be confiscated as well. That's why they used their own planes to transport load after load of silver to underground vaults in Zurich, Switzerland, in the Alps. They transported it into the vaults, and even hired the best gunmen from Texas to escort the shipments. 20 sharpshooters were chosen to guard the Hunt brothers' purchase of 55 million ounces of silver. The price of silver then skyrocketed from 1.5 to 6. The Hunt brothers had become the richest men in America. The richest person in America was Hunt back then. Hunt felt that saving in US dollars didn't seem very reliable. At that time, America's national strength wasn't as great as it would later become. In 1974, the US was in turmoil after the Vietnam War. It was a bit like today, once again in a state of uncertainty. So, Hunt made up his mind to take things seriously. He decided to buy up all the silver in the world and push the price up to where he believed it should be. Because gold was being held down at 35 by the US government, he had no choice. But he was also worried that the US government might suppress silver as well. So he decided to ship the silver to Switzerland. This was the process, you see. At that time, rumors were spreading wildly around the world that the Hunt brothers were going to take all of America's silver market and even monopolize the global silver market. So, what was the annual silver production in 1974? It was 245 million ounces. And what was the global annual demand for silver? The demand was 450 million ounces. Listen to these numbers. Now, let's immediately use AI to check. What is the current global demand for silver? And what is the current production? It's exactly the same. Silver production cannot be expanded. Don't listen to those people talking nonsense, as if silver were iron ore or copper ore. It's extremely difficult to increase the production of gold and silver. Very difficult. There just isn't that much. And most of it is a byproduct. To get silver, you have to extract a huge amount of copper. So, it is usually found together with gold or with copper. So silver is basically always mined as an associated mineral. The annual production of silver has always lagged behind the annual demand for silver, and that's the key issue. So the Hunt brothers decided to go after silver. You might ask, why didn't they go after gold? Let me tell you again, the Hunt brothers were smarter than me because they were the richest people in America. The reason the Hunt brothers didn't go after gold was because the US government was playing dirty at the time. After the Bretton Woods system, it was illegal for any American to buy gold, no matter if you were the richest person or not. So they had to settle for the next best thing. Got it? Then someone asked, if these two brothers were buying recklessly, how much silver does the US or the world have available for them? I mean, they've already bought 5,500 ounces. How much could the US actually provide? Weren't they trying to squeeze the market as much as possible? So, how much could we actually give them? Even if I gave them everything, if you do the math, the maximum would be 200 million ounces, including all private reserves in the United States. There are only 200 million ounces. Damn, he's already bought 55 million ounces. There are just 200 million ounces left. So the situation is already clear now. It's already clear who will win and who will lose. The Hunt brothers really could come up with that much money, especially if the price was around $6. So the Hunts flew to New York to rally support, to gather their forces. He gave a speech at COMEX. Hunt himself was basically like Elon Musk. In his speech, he said, almost anything in this world is better than holding a $1 bill. He meant that even the US dollar, the little green bills, the green paper, almost anything is more valuable than that. Because even an idiot knows how to use the printing press. What he meant was that silver, gold, or anything at all, even pots and pans, are all more valuable than this because they can just print this stuff recklessly. At that time, the US was indeed running a huge deficit. By March 1975, even Hunt's money wasn't enough because the price of silver started to fall again, just like it's being hammered down today. Then Hunt had to keep adding margin. He was using leverage too, and that's a key reason for his downfall. Then what did he do when he ran out of money? He flew to Tehran to see the then Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. Yes, that's the Shah, whose son is now trying to restore the monarchy. He went to see his father, the one who hadn't been overthrown yet. He went to see him. You're right, gold is a byproduct. It's an associated mineral of pyrite and copper ore. I mean, I've actually acquired gold companies myself, damn it, so how could I not know? Even if I'm not an expert, I still know these things. I mean, I've never actually slaughtered a pig, but I'm someone who sells pork, you know? So, the general situation with pigs, the butchers have told me all about it. Alright, let's continue. Although the two brothers didn't have enough cash on hand, they went to the Shah of Iran, Pahlavi, and got him to join forces with them. They told him stories, saying that as long as we join together to buy silver, we can make him liquidate his small amount of silver. Basically, it's called a short squeeze, forcing them to jump out the window, haha. And, silver wouldn't just be $6 anymore. We could push it up to $60 if we wanted to. You see, didn't Iran also have money again? Isn't this a great opportunity for us? But the Shah didn't really understand, so he had his finance minister talk in detail with the Hunt brothers. That's normal. The finance minister would discuss the details. The finance minister, an Iranian noble, directly asked Hunt, how much did you make last year? Hunt hesitated for a moment and said, about $50 million. The finance minister immediately refused to cooperate with him. Here are two key points. What kind of cultural difference is this? First, he hesitated because there was no trust or familiarity between them. Oh, the fact that you hesitated shows you have a guilty conscience. Then you say $50 million, and the Iranian finance minister thought he was even exaggerating the amount, because he hesitated for a moment. In fact, that year he was the richest man in America, and if he had only made $50 million, that's impossible. Why did he hesitate? Why did he say $50 million? Later, he wrote about it in his memoirs. He really regretted it. Otherwise, he would have won long ago. Why? In his memoirs, Hunt later reflected, why did I hesitate and say $50 million? Damn it. He suddenly thought of the IRS. It was that simple. He was afraid that if he said too much, Americans would spread the word. Because if it got reported in the newspapers, in the US. You have to pay taxes for bragging. If you tell the Shah in Iran that you made $2 billion in a year, what about the taxes? That's why Hunt hesitated for a moment. So he said he made 50 million. This way, the IRS wouldn't come after him for back taxes. But then the Shah of Iran would look down on him. With a dead rat stuffed in your belt, pretending to be a hunter, you come to my damn lavish palace in Tehran to talk business with me? Fuck off. He got cursed out and kicked out. There was nothing he could do, and it delayed things for him. But at that time, Iran had a neighboring major country in the Middle East, also wealthy and rich in oil, Saudi Arabia. Even today, both Saudi Arabia and Iran are oil-rich countries, and it was the same back then. Saudi Arabia also had a king. Iran had a king too, Pahlavi, but Pahlavi drove him out. However, the king of Saudi Arabia was Faisal. Faisal was interested and took the initiative to reach out, saying, "Well, you can come to me. I have money too. Let's work together." The two agreed to sign a contract and start working in April 1975. See, no matter how well you plan, things never go as expected, on March 25th, 1975. It was just 1 or 2 weeks before they signed. This was a global sensation. It was a major event that affected the world financial markets. People today might not know about it. I was not even born yet. March 25th, 1975. The king was shot dead at a palace banquet by his schizophrenic nephew. Just like that. He died so abruptly, so lightly. King Faisal of Saudi Arabia. King Faisal was originally a great king, but damn, he was just shot dead. After he was killed, people were like, hold on, how could it be him? Damn, he was a lunatic. They wondered why he came with a gun, but there was nothing they could do, so the matter was just left at that. So, the new king didn't know him, and wasn't interested in it anymore, so Bunker had no options left. Then he went to the east, saying they wanted to find Chairman Mao. Damn, Chairman Mao was too poor at that time, and besides, he was about to die. In 1975, Mao was either already dead or close to dying. So China was dirt poor. If they didn't go to China, who did they go to? They went to the Philippines. The big dictator in the Philippines was called Marcos. Not Musk, but Marcos. He also had a very beautiful wife. What was her name? Imelda Marcos. When I was a kid, on China's news broadcasts, they always talked about Marcos. He was the dictator of the Philippines. A president who came to power through a coup. He was short on money. So what happened next? Bunker said, "No problem, you don't need to have money. Sugar, there are sugarcane plantations in the Philippines. Right? You give them to me, and I'll give you 20 million ounces of silver. And then, didn't I just give you silver? You take the silver to Saudi Arabia, and you can directly exchange it for the oil and goods you urgently need. Meanwhile, I take your sugar refinery, and your sugar cane, and I can sell them for big money on the New York Mercantile Exchange. This way, everyone's happy." What is his real purpose? His real purpose is that he needs money. He knows Marcos doesn't have money, but Marcos has cane sugar, and cane sugar is as good as money. He wants to use 20 million ounces of silver to exchange for cane sugar. If this move works, his liquidity will instantly return, because he can make silver the global currency for international commodity trading. Previously, the main currency for commodity trading was the US dollar. Before 1975, it was the US dollar. But with this move, wouldn't silver also become a currency? Will they let him do that? Think about it. Who controls the US dollar? New York, of course. As soon as the International Monetary Fund saw this news, they immediately issued an ultimatum to Marcos. Philippines, if you go through with this, don't come to the IMF for aid or loans in the future. As a poor country, the Philippines had borrowed a lot from the IMF, so Marcos didn't want to risk everything for just this one city or one opportunity. You don't offend an entire river just for a ladle of water. So, President Marcos broke the agreement, and the Hunt brothers' capital chain was about to break. It's just like today, the price of silver, didn't it just rise to $6 or $7? And it dropped to 4. Isn't that the same ratio as today? From 6 down to 4. It went from 1.5 up to 6, then from 6 down to 4. You guys are so young, so naive. But recently, the price of silver hasn't gone up fourfold, right? It went from 1.5 to 6. That's a fourfold increase. And then it dropped to 3, which is a 50% drop, pretty much. And then, is that the end of the story? No, it's not over yet. He wants revenge. He's going to squeeze the shorts even more. Hunt is going to squeeze the shorts even more. Hunt was watching closely, and it was already spring. Spring passed, and it was already April. He returned to his hometown in Texas. He looked around Austin and Dallas. Wait, why aren't there any soybeans planted in the vast American farmlands this year? Soybeans are just what we call beans for soybean oil. The US usually plants a lot of them. It's a major commodity. But this year, none were planted. Aha! If nothing was planted, there will be no harvest in the fall. With no harvest, how dare COMEX keep trading soybeans? Haha, now it's my turn for revenge. You guys fucked with me. Y'all old monies. The establishment. The shadow government. The deep state. All in soybeans. Buy soybeans. But secretly, after the spring planting, he calculated that there would definitely be a soybean shortage in the fall, but increasing in the summer. And then in the fall, he suddenly revealed his hand, going all in on soybeans. With a big move, a single American investor can only buy up to 3 million bushels of soybeans. This is a trading unit. The two brothers, along with their relatives, together bought a total of 22 million bushels. All in, time to deliver. That year, even the entire United States couldn't come up with 22 million bushels of soybeans. So the price of soybeans skyrocketed. Damn, they made a killing. At this point, COMEX started playing dirty, just like what's happening today with silver. Once I finish telling you this, you'll realize that today's market is just the same kind of dirty play. Today they dared to draw the line. So why didn't they dare to draw the line with Hunt? Because Hunt is also an American, he's not that weak. So what does he do? He turns to the law.